Have you ever met someone who felt familiar, but you'd never seen them before? As if your heart recognized them faster than your eyes did? It's not déjà vu. It's soul memory. The kind of memory that doesn't live in your brain, but in the deepest part of who you are. Some connections don't begin in this lifetime. They return. There's a kind of love that doesn't start with butterflies or fireworks. It starts with silence. A stillness that feels ancient. When two souls are truly meant for each other, it's not about starting something new. It's about remembering, reuniting, realizing that what once was, still and always has been. These aren't ordinary love stories. They are sacred contracts, written long before you were born. They are guided not by circumstance, but by a higher intelligence that moves souls across oceans of time and chaos just to meet again. That is the story we're diving into. Before we go deeper, take a moment. If you believe that some souls are destined to find each other, no matter how much time or space passes, drop a "Destiny always finds a way" in the comments, and let's see how many of us believe in soul connections. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that some relationships serve as mirrors of the soul, reflections that awaken, challenge, and transform us. When two destined souls cross paths, they ignite something ancient within one another, a recognition that defies logic and even language. Sign 1. The invisible thread that never breaks. According to Jungian psychology, soul recognition is more than a poetic idea. It's a psychological phenomenon, rooted in the collective unconscious. There is an invisible thread, older than time, that binds two souls who were always meant to find their way back. These threads are made of archetypes, primordial patterns etched into the human psyche. When soulmates meet again, they activate two archetypes. Jung called the anima and the animus, the inner feminine in a man and the inner masculine in a woman. These aren't just gendered energies. They're blueprints of wholeness, carried unconsciously within all of us. And when we meet someone who carries the missing piece, something stirs deep inside. We remember. This isn't about fairy tales. It's about mirrors. The other person reflects what was hidden in you. Your unhealed wounds, your secret longings, your forgotten power. You don't just fall in love with them. You awaken to who you truly are. And yet, this love is never easy. Because to see your light, you must also confront your shadow. When you look into the eyes of your destined soul, it doesn't feel like discovering something new. It feels like uncovering something ancient, something you carried within you, but didn't know how to name until now. And once it's awakened, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending you're whole without them, because they've shown you the missing mirror. But here's the paradox. True soul love isn't just beautiful. It's disruptive. It shakes foundations. It rearranges everything. Because it wasn't sent to soothe you, it was sent to transform you. Sign 2. The mirror that reflects both light and shadow. Jung taught that when two souls meet with such deep authenticity, they don't just fall into romance, they collide with truth. You see, the other person doesn't just reflect your beauty or your brilliance. They reflect your blind spots, your wounds, your fears, your forgotten shame. This is the shadow, Jung's term for the parts of ourselves we've rejected, denied, or buried. And soul connections awaken this shadow, like nothing else. Why? Because they make us vulnerable, naked spiritually. And that rawness becomes a spiritual mirror. It's why such love is often tense. Not because it's unstable, but because it's unfiltered. You see their soul, and they see yours. No masks, no pretending, just two truths, staring back at one another. This is where many people run. The ego panics. The comfort zone cracks. But the ones who stay, the ones who choose to face the reflection, are the ones who begin to heal. These aren't just lovers. They are soul catalysts. They don't complete you. They awaken you. This kind of love doesn't ask for your best version. It demands your real one. And when it arrives, it doesn't politely knock, it erupts. Because destined love doesn't tiptoe around your ego, it burns through it, not to destroy you, but to reveal what's been hidden beneath the mask you've worn to survive. If you've ever asked, why does this person trigger me so deeply? It's not because something's wrong. It's because something important is being uncovered. Sign 3. The trigger is the teacher. Jung explained that the emotional storms we feel inside deep relationships aren't proof we're with the wrong person, but signs we're being shown what's unhealed within. The soulmate isn't here to harm you. They're here to bring the wound to light, and healing can't happen without first seeing what hurts. Your reactions, jealousy, fear, abandonment, control aren't flaws. They're signals, messages from your inner child, from your repressed memories, from the places that long to be seen. When your destined soul triggers you, it's an invitation. Are you willing to look within instead of pointing outward? This is the shift from projection to reflection, because the person in front of you isn't the enemy. They're the mirror, and mirrors don't lie. They don't flatter. They show you what is. That's why many people run from soul love. It doesn't flatter the ego. It asks it to surrender. And not everyone is ready for that level of honesty. But for those who are, the journey becomes sacred. It becomes a path of remembrance and rebirth. If you think true love is supposed to feel easy, soft, and always secure, you haven't met your destined soul yet. Because when they appear, life doesn't get calmer. It gets louder. Not in chaos, but in clarity. They awaken everything you didn't want to face, but needed to. Because their presence is an initiation, a sacred fire, a calling to become more than who you were. Sign 4. The relationship itself becomes the teacher. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the path toward becoming your whole, true self. Most people try to walk that path alone. But what if your soulmate is the very tool your soul chose for that transformation? In a deep soul bond, the relationship becomes a living classroom. Your interactions become lessons. Your arguments become reflections. Your intimacy becomes the sacred space where masks fall off and wounds are exposed, not to shame you, but to be healed in the presence of someone who sees you and stays. This love forces you to grow up emotionally, to move beyond blame and into self-responsibility. It asks, can you love someone even when they show you parts of yourself you'd rather avoid? It demands emotional maturity, radical honesty, and the courage to evolve inside the bond, not outside of it. It's not about finding someone perfect. It's about becoming someone capable of loving imperfectly, with truth. In this sense, your destined soul is not your fantasy. They're your mirror, your medicine, and your next level. They show you what love looks like when it stops being a dream and becomes a path. Sometimes, the most painful thing is not the breakup. It's the knowing, deep in your soul, that this isn't over, that something still lives between you, even in silence, and that no amount of time or logic can convince your heart to forget. But what if separation isn't failure? What if in the language of the soul, it's a sacred pause? Sign 5. Separation as soul work. Jung taught that individuation, the becoming of the self, often demands solitude. In deep soul connections, distance doesn't always mean the end. It can be the beginning of the real work. Because when two people are entangled in unconscious projections, sometimes space is needed to clear the fog, drop the fantasy, and face the truth. During separation, your soul is stripped of distraction. There's no one to blame, no one to chase, just you and everything you feel. That's where growth happens. That's where you stop waiting for the other person to fill you and start learning to stand whole on your own. In this sacred space, the pain becomes a teacher, the longing becomes a mirror, and the silence becomes holy ground. It reveals your attachment wounds, your unmet needs, your beliefs about love and worth. And as those illusions fall away, something more powerful emerges: self-connection. Because before you can reunite with someone else, you must reunite with yourself. And that's the secret most people miss. Sometimes, soulmates separate, not because the bond is weak, but because the work is deep. When two souls reconnect after time apart, it doesn't feel like starting over. It feels like stepping into something ancient with new eyes. The words might be the same, the faces familiar, but something fundamental has changed. You've walked through your shadows. You've sat in your silence. And now, when you meet again, you don't need them. You choose them. Sign sings the return happens when you're ready, not when you want. Carl Jung taught that the self, not the ego, orchestrates our most important experiences. This means that destined souls don't reunite when the timing is convenient. They reunite when the inner work is done. You see, the love you had before separation was often laced with illusion, expectation, even emotional dependence. The reunion, that's sacred territory. Because now, you no longer expect the other to fill your holes. You've started doing that yourself. That's when love shifts from need to gift. The other person becomes a reflection of your wholeness, not a cure for your emptiness. And this time around, love doesn't rush. It moves with reverence, with space, with a deep knowing that what connects you isn't just affection, it's purpose. And if they've done the same inner work, the bond becomes something entirely new, no longer driven by fantasy or fear, but by consciousness and choice. This is when the journey truly begins, not toward each other, but with each other. Not to complete each other, but to walk side by side as two whole beings, choosing love. There's a reason why this kind of love feels larger than life. It's not because it's perfect, it's because it's archetypal. It taps into something ancient that lives in the depths of every human being, the need to return to wholeness. You're not just falling for someone. You're stepping into a story that's been playing out in the collective unconscious for thousands of years. Sign Sandman, the love that awakens the eternal archetype. Carl Jung described the collective unconscious as the deep ocean beneath our individual awareness, a place where symbolic images and ancient patterns live. And among these patterns is one of the most powerful archetypes of all: eternal love. This love appears in myths, dreams, poetry, and fairy tales across every culture. It's the reason why we feel we've known someone forever. It's the pull that defies logic, the synchronicities that seem too perfect, the sense of destiny that won't let go. When you meet your destined soul, you aren't just meeting a person, you're encountering an archetype, a living force that speaks through your emotions, visions, and sense of recognition. This is why such love can feel magical, and also overwhelming, because you're not just living a romance. You're embodying a symbolic reunion of inner and outer worlds. You become the myth, and that myth wakes something up in you. The truth that you are not separate, not broken, and not forgotten. And in that truth, your soul remembers what it came here for. Part 8. The pain has a purpose. Not every love comes to comfort you. Some loves arrive to crack you open, to reveal what was buried beneath years of pretending. This is the love that doesn't say, "I'll fix you." It says, "I'll show you who you are." And sometimes, that showing hurts before it heals. But don't confuse pain with punishment. In soul-deep love, pain is often a sign that something sacred is being unearthed. Sign 8. The emotional turmoil is the soul's alarm clock. Jung reminded us that the self will do whatever it must to wake us up, even if it means turning our world upside down, especially in love, because there is no mirror sharper, no spotlight brighter than the one love shines on our unconscious wound. In the presence of a destined soul, your defenses begin to dissolve. Your survival strategies stop working. You're exposed, not because you're weak, but because the soul connection demands truth. It's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to reveal you. And sometimes that process is agonizing. The silence after a fight, the ache of separation, the fear of abandonment. All of it is sacred data, clues that point to what's been unhealed for too long. Instead of resisting the pain, Jung's work encourages us to listen to it, because inside that ache is a message, a doorway, a call to finally address what you've ignored. And when you do, love stops being a battlefield and becomes a sanctuary for your healing. Part 9. Even distance can't dismantle the truth. What if the silence wasn't the end, but a sacred space between two awakenings? What if what felt like a loss was really a recalibration? When you're connected at the soul level, physical absence doesn't mean the bond is broken. It simply means something deeper is in motion. Because when two souls are destined, time doesn't separate them, it prepares them. Sign 9. Time becomes a tool of transformation. Carl Jung believed the unconscious continues to work even when we're unaware. So when two souls part ways, it's not always a tragedy. It's a psychic alignment, a necessary pause in the external world so the internal world can shift. During this time, both individuals are called to go inward, to confront the parts of themselves they may have ignored while together, to break dependency, to deepen their own wholeness. And if that work is done sincerely, when they meet again, it's not as fractured halves, but as integrated souls. It's in this sacred timing that the myth of eternal love proves itself. Because it's not just a bond, it's a mirror of the soul's journey. And the soul doesn't forget. Even across miles, years, and lifetimes, it remembers. And when it's time, it returns, not to repeat the past, but to begin something entirely new. That's the beauty of this kind of love. It teaches you to trust the process, even when your heart doesn't understand it yet. Because what's real can stretch, but it doesn't snap. Some love stories aren't written to entertain the world. They're written to awaken the soul. They don't always end in marriage or follow tradition, but they always lead somewhere sacred, back to the self. Because the highest purpose of a destined soul isn't to complete you, but to reveal you. And once that revelation begins, nothing is ever the same again. Sign 10. After the soul has met its mirror, it can't unsee. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's exactly what a soul connection does. It holds up a mirror and whispers, "Look, this is who you were always meant to be." That's why it's unforgettable. That's why no matter how much time passes, you never fully let go. Because they weren't just a person. They were your turning point. Whether they return or remain as a symbol in your heart, they've done something sacred. They've activated your transformation. They've made you more awake, more aware, more whole. And that's the true purpose of these rare bonds. Not to keep you comfortable, but to call you home. To the self, to the soul, to love, not as fantasy, but as awakening. And if you've ever felt this kind of love, you already know. You're not crazy, you're not imagining it. You were chosen to experience a myth that lives through you, a truth that bends time, a connection that doesn't end, it evolves. Because what is true always finds a way. Dylan, if this message touched something deep in your spirit, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs this reminder, and comment below. I remember the soul.